We already have Leah in the room, in the house. So we're very excited to have her come and talk all about farming around the world. Before we do that, I would love for you to locate the chat and just say where you're calling in from, what number event this is for you with the Nomadic Network, and tell us like why you're here. Are you a farmer? Are you a traveler that wants to be a farmer? Do you like goats? Do you just want to like eat more healthy food and you need a way to do that? So you want to volunteer on farms? Like, tell us what brought you here today. And while you do that, I am going to share my screen and tell you a little bit about the Nomadic Network. All right. Can everyone see this? Awesome. Okay, so the Nomadic Network is Nomadic Matt's community meetup arm. We started last year, and in 22 different cities around the country and around the world, we had events, and it was awesome. And then the coronavirus happened, and we switched to all virtual events, which has been really awesome because we get to hear from people all over the world, and we can also tune in from all over the world. And this would have never been possible if we were just concentrating on like geographic locations and these things that we had started out with last year. So this has transformed into an online community. Hopefully one day we'll be able to meet up again in person, but for now, this is what we're doing, and we're so excited to have you here with us today. Some things to keep in mind for this presentation: you can absolutely turn your camera on. These are community events. We love to see your face. And so definitely, if you can, and if you feel comfortable, turn your camera on. Turn your microphone off. We do not need to hear you breathe. You will be muted, you know. But there will be a Q&A presentation at the end. So if you have questions, feel free to use the chat. I'll be monitoring that. And if you can just type your questions with the word question in the front, I'll curate those and then ask them at the end to Leah. Also, you can connect in the chat, make friends in the chat, message each other, share your relevant experiences. And then I just wanted to mention that the replays are going to be available for Patreon members. So that's patreon.com/nomadicmat. And then I just wanted to remind you that we're here to learn, satiate your wanderlust, and have fun. You know, this is not a super serious meetup. This is one to like ignite your wanderlust and make you remember all the awesome travels you've done and also the ones you'll have in the future, maybe farming. And then I wanted to just reiterate that like our speakers are doing this out of the kindness of their heart and the passion for sharing their knowledge. Leah is crazy passionate about this topic today. And so I just want to give a shout out to her and also let you know that one of the main reasons why we love having these events is because we get to introduce you to incredible travelers that have all different specialities. Why is that word so weird? But basically, like hopefully in the future, if you ever think about farming or you think about woofing or you want any information, you'll already be following Leah. And so you can just contact her directly and ask her any questions. I mean, this is a travel community. We're all here to help each other out. And then last but not least, our Patreon community is our very exclusive community that is really cool. It's for Nomadic Matt as a whole. And basically you get access to all the past and future TNN replays, personal stories not shared on Nomadic Matt's blog. You can give input to future blog posts that Matt's writing, live Q&As with Matt and all of us team members. You get free signed books, guides, t-shirts, all sorts of things. So if you'd like to be a Patreon, you could do that at patreon.com/nomadicmat. And if you just found this valuable, you can definitely just throw us a one-time donation through PayPal with matt@nomadicmat.com. You can get to us, and that would also be much appreciated. I am going to stop sharing my screen So I can introduce Leah. Leah Michelsen is the founder of the website squashbucklers.com, which helps newbies to environmentalism follow their interests to develop earth-friendly habits. We all need more of those. In 2018, she and her sister road tripped around the US and Canada and volunteered on different farms, from picking berries with volunteers from 4 different countries in a tiny town in Canada, making omelets with fresh duck eggs and garden veggies every morning in Washington, to selling her own apple butter at the farmers market in Colorado. WWOOFing left her with many meaningful experiences, and she's been encouraging others to do so ever since. So we are so excited to have you here today, Leah, and I will mute myself and you could give your presentation, and then feel free to write your questions in the chat, everyone. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much to everybody that came. I'm really excited to share with you. And before I go into my presentation, I just have a couple questions. So if you could answer them in the chat, that would be awesome. First is, if you knew you barely had to spend any money, where would you travel and for how long? Thailand, yes, that is definitely a place I want to go. New Zealand. A lot of New Zealands. There are a lot of WWOOF farms there, like a ton. Antarctica, cool. I don't think I can help you with that one. Awesome. Second question is, what is your favorite farm animal? Yes, cat counts for sure. Lots of cats on the farms. Baby goats, cool. Mine too. Anything baby, sweet. Awesome. I'm going to share my screen now. Can you all see this? Okay, cool. So if you're here to learn how to volunteer on farms, then you're in the right place. This is a guide to WWOOFing, which stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. So a presentation flow. First, I'm going to paint the picture of WWOOF, talk about what it is, who it's for, the basic steps, how to find the right farm for you, what to expect, and my experiences, and then answer some questions. So feel free to drop them in the chat whenever you have those. And before I start, I just want to say that all of this is going to be available in a detailed guide that I'll send out. So Erica has a link for that, but don't worry about taking notes or anything. You can just listen. So first, a little bit about me. Before I went WWOOFing, I had 0 farm experience. When I was about halfway through college, I got really interested in organic agriculture, but I didn't really find a place to learn about it hands-on. I also was obsessed with traveling and knew I wanted to see more of the US, and I had basically no money, pretty much like $5 to my name. So in 2018, my sister and I road tripped around the US and Canada, and we worked on 5 different farms along the way over about 3.5 months. So here's a little map. We started here in Minnesota, went up and worked on a honeyberry farm, which was super cool. If you don't know what honeyberries are, I highly suggest you try them sometime. They are delicious. We went up to Canada and worked on a strawberry farm. Went all the way across Canada, and then we worked on a goat farm for 3 weeks in Washington. Drove down to Oregon and worked on a super cute urban farm. And then my sister left and I went to another farm in Colorado, which I call an everything farm because it had sheep, it had goats, chickens, and a huge garden. They pretty much did everything. In March, I also was going to start a whole other trip. My plan was to work on farms all over Europe, but COVID, of course, had other plans. So I had to come home after about 3 days on a farm in the UK. But since COVID, I have been working on my website Squashbucklers, adding a lot of resources. So if you're interested in any of these things, then check it out, and I'd love to see you there. Okay, so now I want you to either close your eyes or just imagine in your head. So it's a typical day on one of the farms that I was at. So waking up in a tiny cabin to the sun, heading out to feed the animals, then collecting and processing the eggs, harvesting some fresh veggies for your duck egg omelet, spending the afternoon hiking around waterfalls with new friends, feeding the animals dinner and making sure to spend extra time for lots of pets, and relaxing with a guitar in the garden next to a bonfire to finish your night. All this is 100% my vibe, totally. So if it's your vibe, then you're in the right place. And stay tuned because I have a $10 discount for everybody here tonight for a WWOOF USA membership. So big thanks to them. All right, what is WWOOF? It stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And it's basically a network of farms in over 130 countries around the world that provide food and accommodation for travelers in exchange for an average of 4 to 6 hours of work per day, about 5 days per week. So there are 42 countries that have their own memberships and websites. And then there are 99 countries which are part of something called WWOOF Independence. And so you buy one membership and you have access to all of those countries. And it's basically because they just don't have enough farms for the whole country. So that's a cool opportunity. Who is WWOOF for? It's for anybody who enjoys being outside in nature, learning about an organic lifestyle and farming methods, or somebody who's interested in learning it, forming connections with people from various backgrounds and cultures, putting in sometimes very demanding work, but there's always a great reward. And it's for families, for students, seniors, 2-week vacationers, and anybody who needs a break from their regular life. Who is WWOOF not for? Anybody who only wants free food and accommodation, is not willing to put in some hard work, because that happens, and is not interested in meeting new people. Because you are entering these people's lives and homes when you're WWOOFing, and you're going to meet their family, you're going to meet their friends and their community. So you got to be up for that. Some reasons that people WWOOF: they want to learn about sustainable living, they are traveling on a budget, or want to learn farming skills, they want to meet locals or practice a language. WWOOFing is a really cool opportunity to be immersed in the culture and the language if you're trying to learn that. Experience authentic culture when traveling. People also do WWOOFing for school internships, which is really neat if you're doing that type of program and need hands-on experience. Hosts might be able to accommodate that. Another thing that's really big now, obviously, because of the pandemic, people are working remotely. And so why not do that on a farm? A lot of farms are set up for that. They have internet access, they have schedules that could fit and are flexible. So highly recommend that. And also just to get experience for future school learning. So basic steps. This is pretty much all you need to know in order to start WWOOFing. This is the formula that works for every country. So first, think about which country you'd like to volunteer in. You can find the country's website at woofing.net/destination. This is the main WWOOF website. And then I recommend clicking Find a Host so you can see if there's a farm that might work for you. You can see a lot of information before you end up purchasing a membership. So purchase your membership. They're usually $20 to $60. It depends on the country. They usually last for a year. Some are for 2 years. I think WWOOF Canada is 2 years. And they do have single memberships or joint memberships if you are traveling with somebody almost all the time. And then you want to create a profile introducing yourself, sharing your preferences, what you're interested in learning, and where you're interested in going. Like Raven here. She's a Nubian goat from Washington, one of my favorite that I met. And in the future, the WWOOF might look different. It might be one big platform or membership that you buy, but for now you buy one for each country that you're going to. So this is just a little image of what the find a host part looks like on their website. You can search really easily if you want to on the map, or you can see the list of farms on the left side here. And then right here where it says more filters, this, I have a slide that I'll show you, but there are a ton of ways that you can search to find what works for you. And that really just comes down to knowing yourself and your priorities and what you're looking for in a farm. So the last couple steps, you want to search for a farm based on the criteria that are important to you. And then you want to request a volunteer and message the host explaining why you want to visit their farm specifically. And this is important because a lot of hosts get several requests for woofers to come. And if you make yours personal and explain what you saw on their profile, why you're interested in learning something specific, or why you want to go to their farm, that'll do great things for your chances of getting there. And then this screenshot here, this is where it showed more filters. There are a ton of ways to search. As you can see here, it just really depends on what's your priority when you're looking for a farm, what's important to you. And so I'll walk you through some questions that you want to ask yourself when you're figuring this out. But first, we're just going to take a deep breath because there's a lot of information and I have a lot coming up. So here are some questions that you'll want to ask yourself. This is my sister finding the right farm. First is, where do I want to travel? Second, how long can I volunteer? This I think is really cool because a lot of farms, they are open for local woofing. If you just want to test it out, find a farm close to you now. They also, a lot of farms prefer either 1 to 2 weeks. And then actually a lot of farms prefer that you're there for several months at a time, which I think is really neat, and that surprised me at the beginning. So there's opportunity for everybody, and there's going to be a farm for everybody. They're super unique. What type of accommodation am I comfortable with? This is also important because a lot of the time you might be in a trailer, you might be in a tent, a cabin or a yurt, and then you also can be in a bedroom in a house. So just knowing what you're cool with, what you're looking for is really important. What type of diet do I require? Also really important. I'm a vegetarian, so that was one of the things that I was looking for specifically when I was looking for farms, because that's just a priority for me. And what do I want to learn? This may or may not be important to you, but there are several features where you can search on the website. So like if you're interested in animal care or companion planting, composting, cheese making, that's a thing, like making any type of product, it's basically there. More questions to ask yourself. What type of work am I comfortable with? Some of the work can be very long and hot, so it can be difficult, but there's also a ton of work that is really light, just like harvesting, preserving food. Yeah, there are a lot of options for that. Am I traveling with my family or pets? A lot of farms are open to this, and they really love when people bring their pets and their children. Mostly the pets just have to get along with the farm animals. Do I want to meet other woofers or be alone? This might change for you, but I will say it's super fun when there are other woofers there, and you end up making really great friends. What time of year am I traveling? This is more so if you're going to be traveling in the winter, because a lot of farms, they do close, or they just don't have enough work or the proper accommodation for woofers. So it's just something to keep in mind, and there are search options on the WWOOF website for that. This also means that the type of work will change. But there are in the US 800, I think, farms right now that are still accepting woofers for winter. And do I speak the language of my host or vice versa? Obviously, very important, just to be able to communicate on a basic level with your host. Last questions. What sort of transportation do I have? This is important because you don't want to be at a remote farm necessarily if you don't have a car or transportation. A lot of hosts are totally willing to pick you up from public transport stations or airports, but they don't necessarily have the time to cart you back and forth to the city when you want to go. So just thinking about this when you're choosing a farm is important. What sort of host am I comfortable staying with? I think this is one of the most important as well, just because this kind of relationship can make or break your WWOOF stay. So you want to think about it beforehand. The WWOOF USA website specifically, they have a lot of options for searching for types of hosts. And they also have options for BIPOC operated, women operated, LGBTQ operated, and veteran operated farms, which is super awesome. And I really love that feature. What do I want to do in my free time? I was pretty cool just chilling on the farm and reading and playing guitar, but it's also really nice to get out and see the sights around you, especially if your main focus is traveling. So just think about that when you're choosing a farm, if you'll have access to those types of activities. Do I have a remote job or studies to consider? Obviously, you just want to know if the schedule will work out for you and if there's internet access. And lastly, am I offended by chicken poop? It's just a good question to ask yourself to know before you start. Most importantly, you just want to have a conversation with your host so that everything is really clear, your expectations are out there, and you know what's the situation is going to be, and they know what to expect as well, because they are also trusting you when you're going to their farm. So who are the hosts? The hosts are wonderful people. They're almost exclusively very generous and hospitable. A lot of them have traveled themselves, and this is a way for them to kind of travel again by bringing people into their homes. So most of the time, they're super excited and happy that you're there, thankful that you're helping out on their farm. They're also very hardworking, and they have farms to run. So this means that they're not always going to be present. You will have self-monitored work, so you have to be comfortable with that. And they also rely on your help and your work. So it is important to stick to your commitments. If you say you're going to show up at a farm, that's important to follow through. Like I said before, this relationship can make or break your stay. So it's really important just to think about it beforehand. And you can also read reviews to see previous WWOOFers' experiences there, which I think is extremely important. And then read through the host's profile to get a feel for their personality and their priorities. Some hosts are mostly just focused on the work. They really just want labor there. But I found most of the hosts are also really, they care about the activities and whether you're enjoying yourself on the farm as well. So that's usually what I look for when I'm finding a farm. Safety tips. I never felt unsafe when I was WWOOFing. It's something I thought about beforehand because it kind of seems scary, like going to these random people's houses and farms and maybe not having access to things that I'm used to, but I never felt unsafe. So some things that you can do are read the reviews, and you can just decide not to go to farms if they don't have reviews. You have to have a transportation plan. So if you don't have a car, determine if there is public transportation nearby or what that might look for you. Ask to call or video chat with your host before you agree to stay. Tell them where you are staying and share your phone location, always when you're traveling. Stay on farms in or near cities, and stay somewhere with internet access. Pretty simple. I'm going to take another deep breath because that was also a lot of information. So I'm going to talk about what to expect now and just go about my experience a little bit. And it's mostly pictures, so we can just relax. It's accommodation, food, work, schedule, people, activities, and animals. Accommodation. So these 3 photos on the left, those are taken at the farm I was at in Canada. My sister and I, we stayed in this tent right next to the horses and the free range chickens over here. And we were in a tent because we were only planning to be there for about 4 days. And the other woofers were there for several weeks. And so they stayed in this super sweet tree house with a little hammock on top. And then also this really nice trailer. These cabins down here are where we stayed in Washington. They were just 1-bedroom cabins. They had electricity, just lights. That was it though. They're pretty basic. It was really nice though. Bathrooms, I did want to mention, a lot of the times woofers use outhouses. This was the case in about half the farms I was at, and it actually is not as bad as it seems. It's really fine. But you'll always pretty much have access to an indoor bathroom, especially for showering. There are some farms that are super remote, don't have running water, but they'll always mention that. This is the kitchen of my host in Oregon. She built this house all by herself pretty much, and it's like super eco-friendly and super cute. And we stayed in the house, and it was amazing. I would go back in a heartbeat. Food, one of my favorite parts. The food is delicious. You will probably never eat better than you do when you're on farms. This right here is a salad that we'd have all the time in Oregon. We just put edible flowers in our salad all the time, like it was normal. And most farms can accommodate special diets, but they will say if they can't, and this is a search option as well. So there are a lot of farms that can accommodate vegetarian and vegan diets, as well as gluten-free, and others if you are willing to make your own food. But definitely talk to your host about that and confirm before you go. More food because it's awesome. One of the things also you want to think about is whether someone is going to be making your food or you will make it all yourself. Most of the time it's a shared chore, but I also found that I made most of my food most of the time just because I liked it. And also you eat a lot of meals alone a lot of the time, but some farms, they like to have every meal together. Breakfast on every farm for me was always alone though. So this photo on the right is pretty much what I had every day at the goat farm. It was delicious. There was a huge garden just for the woofers. So we could basically take anything we wanted, and I would always just saute a bunch of veggies, go collect some duck eggs, make an omelet, and then this is like fresh cheese that I always had available. This cheesecake is my pride and joy. I was so excited about this. The people who were on the milking duty that day, they gave me extra milk. I made some cheese, and then I made a cheesecake with the cheese and 6 duck eggs. It was the most delicious thing I have ever had. This is some goat milk yogurt, and these are some fresh berries that I also picked from the garden. And this is what we ate pretty much every night in Oregon. This drink here is shrub, which apparently you usually add to alcoholic drinks. But we had it with carbonated water every night, and it was super delicious, super healthy. So what work jobs will you do? If you're at a farm with animals, you will probably be feeding them at some point. My sister and I, we were usually on the feed shifts when we were at the goat farm. So we had to feed the goats every morning and night, feed the ducks, feed the chickens, feed the dogs, because they're working too. It's hardworking farm dogs. And we were also in charge of collecting the eggs and processing them for sale. And then for the 3 weeks that we were there, we got to be the caretakers of these 3 little baby goats. They were adorable. When we got there, we would prepare their bottles and feed them by hand in our laps. And then at the end of the 3 weeks, they were able to stand on their own. They grew up so quickly. More work. So if you're at a farm that has a lot of harvesting, that's probably what you'll be doing. Planting, weeding, picking fruits, veggies, all of that. It's very nice. I usually would just listen to music or podcasts and pick my berries. This is my sister picking Saskatoons, I think, in Minnesota. I also would help out at the farmer's market when I was in Colorado. This was super fun. We'd wake up really early before the sun came up, and we'd harvest the veggies, put them in the coolers, and we made a super beautiful farm stand. We were the talk of the farmer's market. I also made some apple pear butter right from the trees that we harvested that were like 100 years old. And we sold that at the farmer's market with the goat cheese. It was super fun. Another thing you might be doing, depending on the time of year, is food preservation. So that's canning, pickling, drying, dehydrating, everything under the sun, basically. I actually really enjoy that, and it is nice, light work. So I never did this, but a lot of woofers also do building projects depending on the type of farm. So maybe helping to build accommodation or new outhouses or anything that needs to be built. Oh, and also I wanted to mention that some of the work also involves interacting with other people that come to the farms. So on the goat farm, they actually had Airbnb guests, and my sister and I, we would take them on our morning chores and help them feed the goats and show them around the farm, and also making deliveries to restaurants and co-ops was also part of the work, which I really enjoyed. Schedule, just a little bit about this. The setup is 4 to 6 hours of work per day, 5 days per week. But some hosts take this literally, some hosts just see it as an average, and some farms are more shift-based. And I have never had a farm or a host that actually was like super strict about my hours. It was always self-monitored, and they usually trust you. Yeah, this is my sister digging up a spinach bed. This was what we did every day at the farm in Canada, picking strawberries and pulling weeds. This is my failed attempt at a selfie with the ducks. And probably one of the most meaningful parts of woofing, I think, are the people that you meet. They are going to be super just inspiring people, super hospitable. The host families, like I said, they a lot of times have traveled all over, and they have wonderful wisdom and wonderful stories to share. And a lot to teach you, especially about their farm, and just a lot of wisdom to pass on. The other woofers, this is probably the best part. My sister and I, we got to this farm in Canada, and we didn't really know what was going to happen because we kind of forgot about this farm, to be honest. We were only going to be there for 4 days, but it actually turned out to be a total highlight, because when we got there, there were 4 other woofers. One from Paris, one from the Netherlands, one from Vienna, and one from New Zealand. And this was in a tiny Canadian town of like 800 people or something. So it was a super unique experience, and we were basically locals. So activities you can do: hang out on the farm, read, swim, bike. My sister and I did a lot of hiking when we were in Washington. This is Mount Rainier and Oregon. More activities. This is the day my sister and I, we worked for 10 hours the day before this so that we could spend our last day with everybody, all the woofers in Winnipeg. And here is when we went to the local co-op and we saw our eggs at the store being sold. And this is one of my favorite things. My host in Oregon, she knew basically every single person in the community. She was good friends with the professional actors who were part of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And so she got us connected, and like every night my sister and I were going to these super expensive, amazing Shakespeare productions, and at some of them we had front row seats. And all of this was just in exchange for providing some fresh veggies. Not too bad. some animals, also a highlight of WWOOFing. This is a little chicken who came to visit me at my bunkhouse in the UK. The horses that we tented near in Canada, and this is Bogey, who we got to play catch with as part of our work. This slide doesn't need an explanation. It's just awesome. Goats are the funniest animals. So if you ever have a chance to hang out with them, I super recommend it. This is Raven. She was my BFF on the farm. This is Burrito. He was one of the little babies that we got to bottle feed every day. So a few more things to think about. It's okay if it's awkward at first. You might get to a farm, you might not know who your host is or where you're supposed to go. So it's okay just to knock on a window, talk to the first person you see, and ask questions. That's really it. And it will become less and less awkward the more you're there. You will probably be surprised by how much money you don't spend. We spent 3 weeks on the farm in Washington and barely spent any money. It was amazing. If you are going to a different country, you want to check to see if you need a visa before you end up buying a membership. If a host doesn't respond, then make sure to send a follow-up message and just be willing to try a different farm. This actually happened a lot at the beginning when I was trying to find farms, and it was frustrating at the beginning, but I realized this is how it goes sometimes. These farmers are busy and they miss messages. So send a follow-up and then just move on. And your style will change. As you can see, socks and sandals, that's the new fashion. You're gonna wake up, you're not really gonna think about what you look like. You're just gonna put on your work clothes. You're gonna put on your sandals. If you're wearing socks, that's fine. You're gonna go out and do your chores. So it's actually really liberating because you really just don't think about what you look like. And you might be covered in mud and everyone will still take you seriously. They'll still like you. So I want to give a big thanks to WWOOF. They are providing a $10 discount for everybody here tonight for a WWOOF membership. So that is a really good discount because it's not expensive at all. So you can use the code Nomadic Network, and that is available for a whole week. So I recommend it. Might as well just get it, and then you can WWOOF at any time. And just go. It's very simple. There was a lot of content and it might have seemed overwhelming, but it's really not difficult. You just figure out what your priority is. You find the farm that you know is going to work for you and you go. And it will be life-changing, I promise. I'm a different person than I was before I started WWOOFing. So if you want to connect, I would love to have your story on my website if you have WWOOF before or if you're planning to. You can reach me at leah@squashbucklers.com. And also, like I said before, all of this information and more is going to be available. I will send that out to you. So you can just put your name at this link right here, bit.ly/WWOOFguide. It is case sensitive. And then also my website is squashbucklers.com. There are a lot of resources on there, and I would love to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much.
Amazing, Leah. That was incredible. Also, I just dropped everything that you have in the chat, so you guys can easily just click the links. Her website, Instagram, Pinterest, the link to not only Leah's presentation, but like a revamped version of this presentation. So I highly suggest getting the WWOOF guide through that bit.ly link. And also thank you so much for setting up that WWOOF discount for us. That's incredible, Leah.
Thank WWOOF USA, it wasn't me.
Incredible. Actually, we have WWOOF USA that's coming on in a few months because Leah's giving this presentation and shared about the Nomadic Network. So WWOOF itself is coming. I don't know what
real deal,
but very exciting. We have quite a few questions. The one that we got multiple times is there an age limit to WWOOFing?
Yes, I forgot to mention that. I believe in the US it's 18. And I think that's similar in other countries, but you should double check. I think one of them or a few maybe like 16. But yeah, of course, children are also welcome to WWOOF as long as there are parents there.
And is there an upper age limit or no?
Nope. There are a lot of people that WWOOF. When I was in Oregon, there was a couple before us and they were in their mid to late 70s and they had just been WWOOFing for years in their retirement. So yeah, it's definitely a thing everyone can do.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to think like farmers around the world are farming until they pass away. Like there's no end to farming. It's a thing that you do in your life. So that makes total sense. Okay, so Anna is asking, when you say hard work, what about weaklings like Anna, or maybe people who may have health issues? Do you need to be super strong to WWOOF?
You do not. No, it's fine. I am also a weakling. Do not worry. I think you would be surprised at what you're capable of. And also your hosts are not like trying to work you to the bone. That's not really, they're not like trying to get this really long, hard labor out of you. They really want you to enjoy your experience. And so, yeah, they're going to want you to take breaks and not do anything that you're not comfortable with. And then if you are concerned about some work, just obviously talk to your host and talk to them beforehand, asking like what maybe your limitations will be. Just talk about it basically. Yeah, right. Don't worry.
That makes total sense. Shakina is asking, is there a minimum amount of time you have to devote to WWOOFing? And also I would follow that up with, what do you think is the minimum amount of time where you could get like the most out of it since you have all this experience?
There's not a minimum amount of time. You, like I said, you can do local WWOOFing. I've never done that, but I'm really interested in it. And I think that's a great way to get started and to find a farm, maybe see if it's for you really, if you've never done it before. I don't know. I think you can get so much from it in just a few days. I was really surprised when we were at the farm in Canada. We planned to be there for 4 days. And at that point, like we had already become good friends with the woofers there. And so we extended it. So you can get so much out of it in just a short amount of time. Yeah. So even if you just have a week, I would just do it.
All right. So just do it. I love it. Okay. Emily is asking, do I have to wake up early with the sun? Can you sleep in a bit?
Good question. No, you do not. There are definitely farms that are a lot more flexible. When I was in the UK, I was like, I'm a morning person, so I'm happy to be up in the morning. But I asked my host, like, what time we're going to start? She's like, 9:30, whenever you want, really. She's super chill. So a lot of hosts are like that. They just want you to be comfortable with the work you're doing. So it just depends on the farm. Definitely talk to them. But yeah, you're totally fine if you're not a morning person.
And then Marvin is asking, how much farming or animal knowledge do you need beforehand?
0. You don't need to know anything. I knew stuff because I was interested in it, but I had never done it. And so I was worried about that. And I wanted to be helpful for the host, not just like a burden, like having to teach me everything. No, there's so much work you can do and they will teach you. They're really happy to teach you. And they want you to be learning this work as well. So I would just say in your profile that you don't have experience, but you're really happy to learn. That's all you need.
Yeah, and I also would add on to that. It seems like you have a really good attitude. And so I would probably tell other people to have a really good attitude so that you can get along with the person that's actually teaching you. You know, you don't want to be asking for all sorts of concessions and like exceptions and to travel around and do all this stuff because it is their farm, right? So
yeah, exactly.
You get what you get. So, okay, we have a question on what kinds of supplies are essential for when you go woofing. That's by Alicia.
That's a good question. I don't think you really need that much. The farms, they usually provide the equipment for you if you really need stuff. I brought, actually on our long trip, I only had tennis shoes. I don't even know if I brought my boots. And that was totally fine. And they'll usually have mucking boots if you need them. Um, but yeah, I just say work clothes and just some nice gardening gloves or something.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's a good
Yeah.
idea. So
Because
you
you're
don't-
traveling, you don't want to bring a lot, and
yeah,
the hosts understand that. So.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
Emily is asking, are there any accommodation options for remote working partners? So like,
Oh.
yeah.
I'm not sure. I think that'd be a case by case basis. I think people are expected to work, but it's not like you, I mean, you can talk about it with your host, like talk about the hours that you have. But yeah, I would just definitely talk to your host. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I would say it's going to be hard to find someone that has really good internet access for a remote working partner. So that might not be like the best way to work or to travel if you have somebody working remotely. I mean, there could be now that internet sort of exists everywhere, but I wouldn't bet on it just from the farms and stuff that I've been to. Okay, what about, is it easy to find farms that allow dogs? Like I know you said there were some, but Cleo's asking, how prevalent are they?
Hmm. I don't know how many farms, but I think actually quite a few. And I know on the WWOOF USA website, you can search for that, like woofing with pets, and the farms that accept that will be listed. Um, yeah, when I was in Washington, a lot of the woofers had their dogs there, so there were just always dogs all over the place. I think the biggest thing is just that they aren't going to hurt the other farm animals and that they'll get along. So there are a lot out there.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Also, we have an update from Emily who says she'll just leave her partner home.
There you go. Also an option.
Carolyn is asking, are there WWOOF accommodations that allow van travelers? So someone that doesn't even need accommodation.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I think they prefer that actually because then they can also host more woofers. But that's also, it'll say that in the accommodation type, like if you can bring your own. Yeah.
Perfect. Heather's asking, and you sort of touched on this, but a friend of mine mentioned that some farms may be looking for someone to do a creative type project. Have you come across this at all? I know you said something about building, but
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by creative, but there are a lot of farms I've seen also have like other types of work that you might be able to do, or they really want to know what you're interested in. They're very flexible. When I was in Canada, one of the woofers there, he was an engineer and he just preferred to fix their truck that was broken down. So he just got to do that the whole time. And a lot of them also want help with like social media or website stuff. So that could also count for work. So it's rather flexible.
very cool. Um, Heather's asking, what if you get sick while you're there, ranging from a light cold to something that you might have to go to the hospital for? Do you know how that works?
Um, I mean, I think your hosts, they also are going to be like slightly responsible for you. They're going to be taking care of you a bit. But I would just make sure you have insurance, of course. Um, but yeah, they're not going to make you like work if you're really sick or anything like that for sure. I think you would be fine. Mhm.
Awesome. And then Carolyn's asking, if you end up hurting yourself while on the farm, are you on your own as far as insurance? Okay, sorry. I did not read that before I read it. So are you on your own as far as insurance, or are you provided something through the WWOOFing website?
I think on the WWOOFing website, you have an option to purchase insurance because they really recommend it, but it's not included in the membership. So I would think about that beforehand. And I'm not exactly sure how it works if you get hurt.
Okay. What about, Kate is asking, isn't it awfully hard to leave the animals?
Yes, it is. That's why you take a lot of photos. You end up adopting them as your own, like those sweet 3 little baby goats that I was taking care of for 3 weeks. It was super hard to leave them. So,
Um,
yeah, take video. That's all I can say.
you can only imagine. Marvin is asking, is woofing considered work under visa requirements if you're going abroad?
It is not. So that's a good point. Do not tell the board control agent that you are going to work on farm because that could possibly get you sent home. So just say you're there for tourist reasons because WWOOF does count as tourism. Some countries do have some stipulations. I think in the UK, it's possible that you might be only able to technically volunteer for like a month at a time. But look that up, and every WWOOF website will have that information on there. So yeah, just say you're there for tourist reasons. Never say you're going to work. That's basically it.
That is a good rule of thumb. Okay, Emily is asking, do people stay anywhere long enough to travel to other nearby areas on long weekends? Wondering too about those flexible hours, and do most hosts allow you to take off days to travel?
Good question. I think it depends on the host and it depends on the time of year, and kind of how much they are relying on your help. If it's like the middle of summer, sometimes hosts are really busy and they really do need you there every day. Of course, they're going to give you days off for breaks, but yeah. So definitely talk to your host because a lot of them are super willing to give you a couple of days off in a row, or a few, especially if you're willing to work a little extra on days. But yeah, they want you to have trips too. When I was in Colorado, she wanted me to go down to New Mexico and like have my own adventures. So yeah.
So sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Dana is asking, can you woof safely during COVID?
Yes, there are a ton of people woofing during COVID, and I think actually a lot more because of COVID. Um, it's pretty safe. I think it just depends on the host, of course. They'll probably want you to get a test before you go, wearing masks and quarantining. But once you're on the farm, you know, you're with those same people all the time, and you're probably not going to leave that often. So, yeah, tons of woofing during COVID.
That's awesome. And then Emily's asking, is there anything that can be done virtually to help out these farms? I'm guessing also during COVID. Have you heard of anyone doing anything virtually?
I have not. I'm not sure how that would work exactly. I mean, that's really awesome of you. So yeah, definitely offer that. But yeah, I haven't heard anything specifically.
And then Cynthia's asking, how common are woofing families with 2 adults and 2 school-age children? Or not how common, because we know you don't know the stat, but do you think it's a common occurrence?
I do. I don't, yeah, don't know the stats on that, but and I never met any. But I did meet a couple and they were planning to in the future woof a lot with their children. But yeah, people do it all the time. They go on like RV trips, they just incorporate woofing into that with their kids. So it's definitely a thing. It's not uncommon at all.
That's awesome. And then Jared is asking what the standard stay is. And though you may not know that, I also want to know, like, how long do you think long-term stays are?
Standard stay, it really depends on like what you're able to do. Um, for me, it was like a week and a half to 3 weeks on the farm. I've never stayed longer than that, although I would super not be opposed to it. But what was your second question?
Like when you hear about people, did you hear about people staying for a long time, and were
Oh,
they
yeah.
staying for like 2 months, or were they staying for like a year, or had they been there for 7 years, or what?
All over it, really. Yeah, I'd say long term is mostly like 2-3 months. Some people do stay longer than that. I did meet 2 people at 2 different farms, and they actually started as woofers, and now they were the farm managers. So that's definitely a thing that happens. It's quite common, but yeah, long term's like 2-3 months, something like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tristina is asking, where were you planning on going to woof before COVID hit?
I was starting in the UK, so I was at a farm like a couple hours west of London. And then I was hoping to go all over Europe, really, basically wherever. I didn't have much of a plan. Maybe in Sweden, maybe in Switzerland. Yeah, I don't know. All those plans fell through really quickly, so I gotta have to start over.
All right, so that is the end of our questions. I would just like to know either in the chat or via like showing your hands, who is totally down to WWOOF after this presentation? Who is inspired and wants to create some unique travel experiences just like Leah shared with us? Oh my goodness, everyone. Everyone. Okay.
You should totally do it. It's awesome.
You provided so much information, Leah, and I just want to like reiterate that you're not even working for WWOOF, but you are just a pool of knowledge for WWOOF.
Just a nerd.
And I just shared again, so before it like completely disappears from the chat, I just shared again all of your information on how to get the free guide to WWOOFing that Leah has put together. It's got a ton of information, more than she shared today. I would also just love to just shout you out because that was an incredible presentation, Leah. Thank you so much for being here. And also thank you, Stephanie, who introduced Leah to our community and who brought her on as this incredible guest. So this community is like very interwoven and I love it. And yeah, would you like to say anything before I do some last announcements, Leah?
No, just go WWOOF. Just do it. It's super simple. And I'm here for questions if you ever have any. And also on the WWOOF website.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Okay, let me just share my screen one more time so that I can end this nicely. All right. For those of you who said that this was your first event, I would just like to share with you how you can actually come to more at thenomadicnetwork.com/events. We have all of our events listed and we have so many coming up. Tomorrow at 12 noon EST, we have Matt who's going to be sharing all about travel hacking. So if you want to WWOOF so that you could get some free food and accommodation, and then you could travel hack so you can get some free flights, then you can just travel the world basically for free. So I encourage you to come to that tomorrow. And then Thursday, we have 3 events going on. One is happening all around flight, which is our nonprofit, Nomadic Maths nonprofit that sends high school classes abroad for the very first time. And we are actually having the next teacher that is taking her class to come and talk to us on Thursday. And then we have a California happy hour, which, you know, if you're in California, great. If you love California, you can also join it. And then we have David Hunter Bishop, who's going to be teaching us all about retirement on the road. He's been on the road for the last 4 years, no home base. He just travels on a whim and it's really nice. And he's going to give a great presentation. And then for those of you in Paris, on the 28th, there's going to be a 2020 lessons and 2021 travel plans discussion. So that's a very small one. That's for people in the Paris chapter. And then I just wanted to remind you that we would love to invite you into our Patreon community. We have so many perks and it's a really great way to deepen your Nomadic Mat experience. I know a lot of you have been reading Matt's blog for a really long time, and this is a way to get even deeper into the community. And so you can do that through patreon.com/nomadicmat. Also, that's where all of our TNN replays live. So if you missed any, if you think you're going to miss a lot in the future, that's a great way to still get to see all that information. And then again, there's PayPal if that's how you would like to contribute to us. And then the last but not least, I would like to say thank you for being a part of our travel community. You guys really make this worthwhile. I love the connections. I love the chat today. So many good questions and so many animal lovers from like the second question that Leah asked. So many interesting people in this community. And I highly encourage you to get to know each other. and also just keep coming back to these events. We love having you. Thank you so much. And I am going to go. Thanks for being here.